My mother exaggerates everything, my daughter Lisa told the nurse at the clinic desk. Then she canceled my appointments and drove me home like I was a child making scenes. She thought I was being dramatic about the tightness in my chest, the dizzy spells, the nights I woke gasping. It's anxiety, she said, waving me off with a smile as she tossed my pill bottles into a drawer. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't confused. She thought I'd quiet down once the calendar was clear. But I was already planning the one appointment she'd never cancel, the day she'd learn what real fear feels like. Lisa was my only child. I raised her alone after her father died in a factory accident, and every ounce of my energy went into keeping her safe. I worked nights at the diner so she could have shoes without holes and piano lessons she barely practiced for. I skipped dentist visits so she could go to summer camp. When she cried over math, I sat up with her until dawn, drawing diagrams on napkins, whispering, "You're not dumb, baby, you're just tired." When she wanted college in another state, I packed my old car with thrift store dishes and quilts stitched from my mother's dresses. I waved until my arm hurt, then drove back to an empty house and made peace with loneliness. Every holiday I cooked her favorites: mashed sweet potatoes, chicken casserole, the pie she swore only I could make right. I sold my jewelry to help her through her first down payment. When she married, I walked her down the aisle myself, head high though my knees trembled. And when she had children of her own, I was there, rocking them in the middle of the night, patching costumes, baking cupcakes for school sales, taking fevers so she could work. I became the quiet glue, the one who shows up without being asked. So when my health started to falter, I thought I'd earned the right to lean on her. My chest ached climbing stairs, my breath cut short when I reached for laundry, my vision blurred when I bent too long in the garden. The doctor said, "Let's run tests." I scheduled them. But Lisa decided she knew better. She didn't see the years I'd already given her. She only saw inconvenience. That's how she justified cutting my care away. The first betrayal was wrapped in a smile. Lisa stood in my kitchen waving a crumpled paper. "Mom, you don't need this referral. It's just the doctor being cautious. I'll cancel it, save you the hassle." She tossed it into her purse before I could answer. The next came a week later. I tried to call my clinic only to hear, "Your appointment has been cancelled by a family member." When I asked Lisa, she laughed. "I told you you're fine. Don't waste everyone's time." I started hiding symptoms. The dizziness when I bent to unload the washer. The nights I clutched my chest while she scrolled her phone across the room. If I said anything, she rolled her eyes. "Mom, anxiety makes it worse. Stop reading WebMD." One morning I found my pill bottles rearranged. The new blood pressure prescription I'd fought to get? Gone. When I asked, Lisa said, "Those meds make you dependent." I threw them out. My hands shook, but I said nothing. At Sunday dinner I tried again. "Lisa, my chest." She cut me off with a laugh loud enough for the kids. "See what I mean? She exaggerates. She's dramatic." The children giggled because they thought it was a game. My cheeks burned hotter than the casserole dish in my hands. The final straw was crueler. A call came from the hospital about a cancellation fee. "Mrs. Harper, you were scheduled for a cardiac stress test." I hadn't cancelled it. Lisa had. That night, I lay in bed, clutching my chest in the dark, wondering if the ache inside was a heart struggling or just another hurt she'd given me. It wasn't just my health she erased. It was my dignity, my voice, my right to be heard in my own body. She thought I'd fade quietly into silence. But with every appointment she canceled, every laugh she took at my expense, she was only teaching me how to sharpen my resolve. I wasn't the one who should be afraid. She was. It happened at the school play. I'd fought through a haze of dizziness to get there, my granddaughter playing a ladybug with paper wings taped to her back. The auditorium was hot, the air tight. Halfway through, my chest clenched hard, sharp as a fist pressing against bone. I whispered, "Lisa, I can't breathe." She didn't even look at me. She smiled toward another parent and hissed, "Don't start this here." I gripped the edge of the plastic chair, praying it would pass. But sweat rolled cold down my neck. My vision spotted black. I knew the signs. I wasn't overreacting. My body was failing. "I need the ER," I whispered. Lisa turned then, eyes sharp. "Stop it, Mom. You're embarrassing me. You always make everything about you." She adjusted her scarf like I was nothing but static in her evening. The play ended. Children bowed. Parents clapped. And I sat frozen, chest heaving, heart drumming uneven. No one helped me. Not my daughter, not the woman I'd raised on sacrifices she never saw. That night when I got home, I went straight to my bedroom. My hands trembled as I pulled out a notebook I'd hidden in the bottom drawer. I wrote the date, the symptoms, every appointment Lisa had canceled, every pill bottle she had thrown away. Then, underlined 3 times, I wrote, "She wants me silent. She will not succeed." I realized something in that moment. Not just that my health was in danger, but that she had crossed a line no mother should ever see. My daughter had gambled with my life because my weakness inconvenienced her. She thought she'd cut off my voice, my care, my hope. But she had just lit the fuse. The morning after the play, I brewed tea and sat at the kitchen table with my notebook. The house was quiet. Lisa had gone to work, the kids at school. My chest still ached faintly like a bruise inside my ribs, but my mind was clear in a way it hadn't been for months. I wasn't going to beg her anymore. I wasn't going to explain symptoms she would laugh at, or plead for appointments she'd cancel with a wave of her hand. She wanted to call me dramatic, let her. I'd show her what real drama was, the kind that comes with signatures, diagnoses, and truth laid bare on paper. I started with the phone. My clinic knew me by name. I called the nurse directly and said, "Do not cancel another appointment under my file unless you hear my voice." She hesitated, then promised to put an alert on the system. I wrote down her name. Next, I contacted an old friend, Carol, who volunteered at the senior center. She gave me the number of a patient advocate, someone whose only job was making sure people like me weren't steamrolled by family who thought they knew better. One meeting, she said, could change everything. I gathered evidence. Copies of cancellation fees, letters from the clinic, empty pill bottles I dug out of the trash. I logged every episode of chest pain, every dizzy spell, every night I spent clutching the edge of the bed while Lisa snored down the hall. I didn't tell her a word. I let her believe I was still the overreacting mother, wringing my hands, easy to dismiss. But inside I'd already crossed the line. I wasn't just fighting for appointments anymore. I was fighting for control. And soon Lisa was going to learn what fear felt like. The kind that comes when the person you thought was powerless starts keeping score. I began quietly. The first move was practical. Transportation. Lisa had always controlled the car keys, insisting she'd take me where I needed to go. But when the person who holds the keys is the same one canceling the appointments, that's not help, that's control. So I called Carol again. She set me up with the senior ride service, discreet and reliable. A van with a lift came at 8 a.m. sharp on Tuesday. Lisa thought I was home folding laundry. Instead, I rode downtown, signed my own name at the cardiology desk, and finally had the test she'd stolen from me months before. The stress test nearly broke me. My chest seized under the strain, the nurse hovering with a hand near the stop button. But I pushed because I needed proof. When the doctor came in afterward, his face was grave. "You've been living with untreated angina. You're at high risk, Mrs. Harper. These symptoms are real, dangerously real." He handed me paperwork. Diagnosis, treatment plan, prescriptions. I held it like armor. That night, Lisa tried to argue about dinner, fussing that I'd overcooked the roast. I let her chatter, nodding, hiding the manila folder under a magazine. She had no idea what I carried and what it meant for her. My next move was legal. Ellie, the patient advocate, guided me through forms that gave me the power of medical decision-making, stripping Lisa of her informal authority. I signed a directive that required doctors to call me, and only me, for cancellations, consents, or instructions. Ellie leaned across the table and said, "You don't need permission to exist. Or to be treated." Those words settled into me like steel. The third move was social. At Sunday dinner, while Lisa prattled on about how she kept mom in line, I excused myself, walked into the living room, and pulled out my phone. I opened the family group chat. Cousins, aunts, grandkids all tangled in a web Lisa curated with photos where I rarely appeared. I typed, "Update. I've been diagnosed with angina after months of cancelled appointments. Thank you to everyone who supported me when I kept saying something was wrong. For those who didn't believe me, now you know." I hit send. The silence that followed at the table was thick enough to chew. Lisa's fork clattered. My phone buzzed with replies, shocked emojis, questions, apologies. And one sharp message from Lisa's cousin. "Wait, weren't you the one canceling her care?" Lisa stammered excuses, cheeks burning. I sipped my water. I didn't need to say a word. The fourth move was financial. I pulled my old records, the joint account where I'd quietly deposited part of my late husband's pension. Lisa thought she managed everything, but she hadn't seen the savings account I'd kept separate. With Ellie's help, I arranged automatic payments for my treatment, secured in my own name. Now Lisa couldn't claim we couldn't afford it, or the bills got lost. Every check had my signature. The final move was the sharpest. The next time Lisa tried to cancel an appointment, the clinic called me immediately. Your daughter attempted to remove you from our schedule. Do you confirm this cancellation? I said, absolutely not. And then for the first time I told them the truth. Mark her file. She is not authorized to manage my care. If she calls again, report it as interference. The nurse hesitated. You mean? Yes, I said steady. Elder abuse. Document everything. It wasn't easy. Each step left me trembling, not from weakness but from the quiet rush of taking back ground she'd stolen. I had to balance pills, side effects, long nights of breathless fear. But every time I saw Lisa's face tighten, when family members stopped listening to her stories, when doctors stopped returning her calls, when her authority slipped through her fingers, I knew the plan was working. One evening she stormed into the kitchen. Why are you making me look like the bad guy? I looked her in the eye, calm. I'm not making you anything, Lisa. You did that yourself. Her jaw clenched. For the first time I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not power, not smug dismissal. Fear. Real fear. Because she realized I wasn't her silent, overreacting mother anymore. I was the one holding the proof, the paper, the voice she couldn't erase. And I wasn't done yet. Lisa said I was overreacting. So I gave her something real to fear. Not a scene. Not a stunt. A record. I started with the red file on the fridge. Thick paper, big letters. Emergency. Do not cancel. Call patient only. Inside I tucked copies of my diagnosis, my medication list, and the new directive Ellie helped me sign that put all decisions in my hands unless I couldn't speak. A bright magnet held the folder like a flag. Anyone who walked into my kitchen would see it. Anyone who tried to touch my care would meet paper before they met me. Then I put the hospital bracelet back on my wrist. Not the flimsy one they cut off after tests. The medical alert bracelet with a scannable tag tied to my file. It was thin stainless steel, warm against my skin. If I fell in the garden or in the cereal aisle, the scanner would pull up my directive and the note in red. No third-party cancellations. The bracelet didn't make me brave. It made the world honest. My next move was the portal. The clinic IT girl, a patient soul with glitter nails, set up my login, my two-factor, my inbox. Don't share this, she said. Not even with family. I didn't. When a message came in, it came to me and only me. I read every word twice. I answered with slow fingers and clear sentences. Every reply saved itself to a timeline no one could argue with later. I took back the car too, not the keys which Lisa loved like trophies but the movement itself. The senior ride service became habit. Tuesdays for cardiac rehab, Thursdays for counseling, once a month for labs. I learned the drivers' names. They learned my backstep is tricky when it rains. They waited until I was inside. They waved. The first near miss came fast. Lisa tried to cancel my follow-up with cardiology the same week I set the portal passwords. The clinic called me within 10 minutes. Your daughter requested to reschedule indefinitely, the nurse said, careful. Do you approve? I do not, I said. Add the note we discussed. The note went live. A red banner lit up in my chart. If Lisa called again, the system would log it, time-stamped and cold. A little fear pressed behind my ribs and then turned into a steady heat. Not anger. Power. Ellie, the advocate, had one more idea. Start a symptom diary, she said. Short. Daily. Objective. I bought a small notebook with lemons on the cover and wrote like a scientist. Monday 10:42 a.m. Dizzy after stairs, resolved with rest. 2:15. Chest tightness, 4/10, resolved with nitro. Slept 6 hours, no night pain. I didn't sigh on the page. I didn't beg. I logged. The diary made me honest with myself too. I rested when it said I should. I walked when it said I could. With my body protected and my paper ready, I turned to the part Lisa cared about most. The story people told when I wasn't in the room. I didn't blast anyone. I didn't write a manifesto. I took my diagnosis letter to the places where whispers live. To church I brought it folded small in my purse. When Mrs. Hahn asked how I was, I said, "I have angina." I showed her the sentence that proved it. She bowed her head and squeezed my hand like a prayer. At the senior center, I helped Mr. Alvarez set up an alert on his phone to take his pills. He told 3 friends I was the one who knows the forms. Word does what water does. It finds the low places first and then fills the rest. Thanksgiving came with its perfect trap. Lisa loves a holiday that can be staged. She ironed napkins, set place cards, wrestled a turkey the size of a small dog. When it was time for the photo, she lifted her phone and said, "Mom, hold the baby, you'll be in the corner." Corners are where people put lamps and guilt. I took the baby, kissed her head and stepped to the center. The kids laughed and piled in. My son stood behind us, hands on shoulders. Lisa lowered the phone, startled, then lifted it again, and the lens, honest as a mirror, took us all. After pie, I opened the family chat. Everyone from Aunt Jo in Florida to the cousin who only posts memes, and sent 3 pictures. Me on the treadmill with a nurse at my elbow, me with the bracelet, me with the cardiologist's letter. My caption was simple: "Thank you to those who pushed me to keep this appointment. I have angina. I'm treating it." I didn't name who had pushed back. I didn't need to. Grown people can do subtraction. Lisa's cousin, sharp as a tailor, wrote, "Didn't someone cancel Mom's tests?" The thread went still. A few dots appeared and vanished. Lisa typed, deleted, typed. She finally wrote, "It was a misunderstanding." The only reply that stuck was Aunt Jo's. "The only misunderstanding is ignoring a mother when she says she's in pain." The thread moved on to pie recipes. That was the first time I saw fear pass behind Lisa's eyes like a shadow under a door. Fear not of illness. Fear of evidence. I didn't chase her. I let the room breathe. Then I moved my plan into the places where paperwork turns into boundary. We filed a narrow petition with the court. Nothing dramatic, nothing punitive on its face. Ellie called it a non-interference order. It said, Lisa may not schedule, reschedule, or cancel any medical appointment for her mother. Lisa may not communicate with providers as a proxy. Violations will be reported to Adult Protective Services. The judge read the file in a small room that smelled like dust and patience. He looked at Lisa, then at me. "Daughter," he said, soft but iron, "you may love your mother, but you may not be her wall." The order was granted. The gavel's knock was a small sound. Changed the whole house. Lisa didn't speak to me for 3 days. The silence felt like a bandage that needed to stay dry. I watered the plants. I took my pills. I slept at last without waking to check my own breath like a thief. On Sunday she came over with a storm under her coat. "You embarrassed me," she said in the kitchen, the word me heavier than the pot roast in the oven. "No," I said, turning down the stove. "I protected me." Her mouth opened and closed. She looked past me out the window as if she could see a past where I let her pick up my life and put it where it fit her mood. He tried a flank move. "Since you're feeling better," she said, too bright, "let's clear your calendar. Less stress." "My calendar is full," I said, and it was cardiac rehab, a walking group the nurse started, a standing coffee with Carol on Wednesdays to laugh at old musicals and the new messes we refused to be. She left without slamming the door. Grown women learn to make even exits look tidy. But I heard the latch bite. Then came the day when fear in theory became fear in practice. It was a Tuesday, ordinary as toast. The ride dropped me at rehab. I walked, breathed, watched my numbers like a pilot watches the sky. A text popped on my phone from an unknown number. "This is Ellie. Call me when you're done. It's important." My stomach went cold the way old houses go cold when a window is left open. I called from the lobby. "Adult Protective Services received an anonymous report," Ellie said. "They've asked for an interview. Don't panic. You did everything right." "Anonymous," I said. "Lisa." "Not a question." "Probably," Ellie said, careful. "It doesn't matter. Open the door, tell the truth, show the file." The APS woman came on Thursday. She wore a cardigan and shoes that didn't boast. She asked questions like a person trying to see around a corner without scaring a cat. "Who cancels your appointments now? Who has your passwords? Did anyone take medication away?" I answered. I showed the notes, the flags, the court order. I did not add color. I did not shade. She took a copy of the order and a copy of the diary page from the night of the school play where I had written in tiny letters, She told me to stop embarrassing her while my chest hurt. The APS woman's mouth turned down at the corners, not in pity. Math. She left with two things: my permission to close the case in my favor, and the clean knowledge that if Lisa tried again, the next knock at her door would not be from me. The fear in Lisa finally found its shape. It wasn't prison bars or headlines. It was the small, steady terror of consequences. Not what I could do to her, but what she had already done to herself. She tried one last time to pull the old lever. When my lab results posted to my portal, she called the doctor's office and demanded they tell her. The nurse checked the banner. "We can't discuss Mrs. Harper's care with you," she said, polite. "We can take a message." Lisa raised her voice. "I'm her daughter." "Yes," the nurse said without a tremor, "and she's our patient." She noted the call. She sent me a secure message. I replied with a thank you and a smiley face because I am still, spite of everything, a woman who likes small kindnesses. I didn't set out to ruin Lisa's name. Names shouldn't be weapons. They should be doors you open and walk through honest. But she had painted hers on my back. The only way to clean it was to wash where everyone could see. So I asked Pastor Evelyn if the church would host an elder care night. Not a scolding. A class. We made coffee and set out cookies. Ellie spoke for 20 minutes about directives, portals, and the difference between help and control. The APS woman explained what interference looks like. The pharmacist did a show and tell with pill organizers. I spoke last, not as a cautionary tale but as a blueprint. If your mother says she can't breathe, I said, listen. If your father says his head spins, sit him down. Don't cancel what you didn't schedule. I didn't say Lisa's name. I didn't have to. She sat in the back row, hands folded so tight her knuckles went white. When it ended, 3 daughters hugged me. One son cried. Lisa left early. The door didn't slam, but the air moved. My world got bigger. Not because the fear left. It didn't, not entirely, but because the fear had a shape I could walk around. I started a Tuesday table at the senior center where anyone could bring letters and I would help read them. I joined the hospital's patient council. I let my granddaughter paint my bracelet with a tiny heart so it wouldn't look so clinical when it peeked out of my sleeve. I made my last permanent move when I sat with a young lawyer at a wooden desk and rewrote 2 papers. My will and my medical proxy. The proxy named Ellie first and Carol second. Lisa wasn't on it. Not as punishment. As proof of lived truth. The will didn't cut her out of a dime because I don't turn money into knives. But it added a letter sealed and tucked into the back. You hurt me when you called my pain a performance. You made me small to save yourself a drive. If you want back what you threw away, you will earn it with years of ordinary quiet care. If you can't, I will still sleep well. When I left the office, the afternoon light made the sidewalk look like a path in a picture book. Not grand. Clear. The last near miss was a real emergency. Came in the night like bad news does. A bolt of pain shot through my chest and wrapped around my back. I took a breath and couldn't find the end of it. I pressed the call button on my phone. Ellie alerted the ride service. The bracelet beeped at the ear. The nurse met my eyes and said, "We've got you." They did. A stent. A night in a room where machines hummed like bees. In the morning, I woke to sunlight on a plastic pitcher and the soft squeak of shoes. Lisa stood in the doorway, face blotched, hands empty. "I came as soon as I heard," she whispered. They wouldn't tell me anything." "They shouldn't," I said, and my voice came out gentle. "I didn't expect that. I'm okay." She took a step forward like a child in a museum afraid to set off an alarm. "Mom, her mouth fought itself. "I was wrong." The words came like coins dropped into a jar. "I was scared and I made you small." I studied her face, the girl I raised and the woman she made without asking me. I didn't let her off the hook. I didn't throw her out. I pointed to the chair. "Sit," I said. "We'll start with quiet." She sat. We listened to the monitor count the truth. It beeped in a rhythm you can't argue with. Later, when the nurse came in, Lisa kept her hands in her lap. When the nurse asked me a question, I answered. When the nurse asked if there were any other caregivers, I said, "Friends. Church." Lisa flinched like a door closing softly. Maybe she finally heard the sound from the other side. Back home, I hung the discharge papers behind the red folder and added one more page to the lemon diary. Stent placed. Pain gone. Walked to the mailbox. Brief. I baked a small pan of cornbread and brought half to Carol with butter wrapped in wax paper. The other half I took to Lisa's house and left on the porch with a note. Cornbread at room temperature. Boundaries are hot. Don't touch unless you're ready. It was petty and it was perfect. I am allowed one now and then. When people ask me later how I made her pay, I tell them a secret. I didn't. I made her learn. I built a fence with law and passwords in a town that knows my name. I planted things behind that fence. Small, stubborn plants like habits and minutes and Tuesday tables. If Lisa wants to come through the gate, she can. It's not locked. But there's a sign she will read every time. Do not cancel. She said I was overreacting. She made a show of my gasps, told rooms I loved to be the center. Now her fear is quiet and thorough. It lives in the ring of a phone she used to use as a gavel. It lives in the nurse's calm. We can't discuss that with you. It lives in the fact that the next time she lies, there's a paper on a desk and a person who remembers. I didn't become cruel. I became clear. That is the justice that lasts. Not thunder, not flames. Just locks that click, files that open for the right eyes. A bracelet that speaks for you when breath won't. A town that answers back to rumor with, we know her. She tells the truth. She gave me months of fear I couldn't name. I gave her one fear with a name she can't outrun. Consequences. And when I stand in my kitchen with the kettle singing and the red folder bright as a cardinal on the fridge, I touch the bracelet and smile. My heart beats a steady count. The window shows a street that holds. She thought clearing my calendar would make me small. I filled every date with proof. She thought canceling my voice would keep me weak. I wrote it down. She thought overreacting was my sin. I answered with the one reaction the world respects. A record so clean it shines. Now she watches her step. And I walk mine, breathing steady, unafraid. The house is quieter now. The nights don't press so heavy on my chest, and when they do, I know the pills by my bedside aren't hidden in a drawer or left to expire behind someone else's decisions. I line them up in a small porcelain dish, swallow them with water, and listen to the clock tick steady in the kitchen. That sound has become my anchor. When I think back to the first time Lisa waved me off, it's just stress, Mom, you're overreacting. I can still feel the sting. Not just in my ribs but in my heart. I had spent decades pouring myself into that girl, building her world piece by piece so she'd never feel the kind of smallness I grew up with. And in return she shrank me down to nothing, a voice she could mute with a phone call. I used to wonder if love excused that kind of thing. If being tired or overworked or frightened of aging parents gave her the right to erase me. I don't wonder anymore. Love that silences is not love. It's control dressed in concern. Now I move through my days differently. I keep a journal not of aches and symptoms but of proof. My progress, my independence, the steps I've claimed back. Every ride I book for myself, every appointment I confirm with my own voice, every friend I walk beside at the senior center who whispers, "Thank you for helping me do the same." Those pages are my new scripture. Lisa doesn't visit as often. When she does, her smile is tight, stretched like fabric pulled too far. She brings flowers sometimes as if petals can cover paper trails. I take them politely, set them in water, and let them wilt in their own time. I don't press them into books anymore. Not every offering needs to be preserved. And the family, the same cousins and aunts who once nodded when Lisa called me dramatic, now call me first. They ask, "How are you feeling, Aunt May?" They check in not with her filtered version of me but with me. At gatherings, it's my chair the grandkids pile into, my stories that circle the table. Lisa watches from the edge, arms folded, learning in silence how influence can shift when truth takes root. I don't flaunt my victory. That's not who I am. But I also don't hide it. When neighbors ask how I'm doing, I tell them plainly, better now that I keep my own records. When friends at church whisper about their children taking too much control, I share my binder. I show them the signatures, the directives, the law on their side. I watch their spines straighten, their voices grow firm. That is the real justice. Not just reclaiming my breath but lending it to others. And Lisa, he carries a weight heavier than anything my heart ever endured. Every time the family looks at me instead of her, every time a doctor refuses to loop her in, every time a church elder shakes their head, she feels the shadow of her own doing. She told the world I exaggerated. Now she lives in a world where no one quite trusts her version of events. That is her inheritance. Not the house, not my savings, not my care, but the knowledge that she built her own exile with her own hands. I don't hate her. That too surprises me. Anger burned hot at first, but it cooled into something steadier, something stronger. Resolve. I love my daughter still, but I love myself enough not to vanish under her. And maybe someday she will understand that love is not about control or convenience. It is about standing beside someone, not over them. When I sit with the quiet now, I think of all the nights I lay awake, gasping, afraid. Those memories don't haunt me. They remind me of the line I crossed, the one where fear gave way to fight. They remind me that sometimes the bravest thing an aging woman can do is refuse to disappear. Lisa gave me something real to fear once, the idea of dying unheard. But in trying to silence me, she gave herself the heavier burden, the fear of being remembered for what she did, not who she pretended to be. Me. I'll be remembered for surviving, for speaking when they wanted me quiet, for changing the ending of my own story. I no longer feel like dead weight. I am the anchor, steady and unshakable, keeping myself in place when others tried to push me adrift. And when I close my notebook at night, I whisper the same words to myself, like a prayer, like a promise. I wasn't overreacting. I was right. And I am still here.